I'm thinking that I did something wrong already.
Oh, see.
That's where it's coming
See,
from.
you have
It's
a
not
guilty
just-
conscience, and I don't.
And it, like, you know, there's some differences between us and that.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why.
Yeah, that's because you're a sweet person, and it just 12 years in law enforcement. I'm just corrupted, and I'm sorry, people. Look, I need you to forgive me. I'm sorry.
Be Nice Individuals Podcast.
Hey folks, this is Thaddeus on the Be Nice Individuals podcast, which is hosted here at the Flagler Voice Podcast Studio. I have a very special guest on. Guys, I've seen her around. She's all over the place. Podcasting extraordinaire. She's been on TEDx. Now I have her here in studio. Macy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm good, but the weather. I feel like this is a recurring thing.
Yeah.
The weather on here. I think I've talked about it like the last 3 podcasts, which is unfortunate because the podcasts never come out the day of. And so it's one of those things like I'm releasing it, but I'm talking about last week's thing sometimes.
Sure.
So people give me grace. But right now, as the time of this is recording, we are dealing with, what is it? Hurricane Milton? Milton. Yeah. And we were talking about storm prep before. And I have now, thanks to Alan, I have a life straw. So I think I'm good.
I don't know what that is, but it sounds good.
Well, the life straw, you can take this straw, basically, and you can stick it in a dirty puddle, and you can drink. And it filters out all the crap.
Okay.
What? You don't think that's good enough?
I would have to do my own research to come to a conclusion that I feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
So I'll look into it now that I know. Now that I know to look up.
Would you like to borrow my life straw?
No. I don't think we should be borrowing straws.
Well, I haven't used it.
I don't know. Okay. Whatever works for you, you know what I mean? If it gets the job done, if it's giving you the results that you're looking for.
See, now here's the funny thing though. So say that this Hurricane Milton is crazy, right? Mm-hmm. I'm gonna have the life straw, and you're not, and you're just gonna have dirty water around. What do we do then? Like
I didn't rule it out. I'm just saying like, I have to go like do my independent research.
Yeah, you have to look into
check it up.
Yeah,
So I'll do that after this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
So what's interesting is this was actually built, and I don't know if this is like the Life Straw brand, but this was the Life Straw. It was actually on Shark Tank, whatever, but it was built and created for people in like Africa, and they only had dirty water, but the straw itself filters out all the bad stuff. So there's like cool. 99.99999. You know how they always have to have a thing. Sure. So, but anyway, that was a side note just because of what's going on in the world right now, which, guys, be safe. This will probably release tomorrow. I feel like I'm probably release it tomorrow or the next day when we're right in the midst of the hurricane. But anyway, folks, as you're seeing this, make sure you guys are safe out there. Make sure that you take precautions. But right now, we want to talk about something lighthearted and fun. As fun as life straws are, let's talk about you and your podcast. Macy, let's talk about it.
Okay.
So what got you into podcasting?
So I got into podcasting about 3.5 or so years ago. I was 17, and it really just started as a way because I was looking to get out there and network more. And my dad was like, why don't you just start having these conversations just over Zoom with some business owners and just kind of learn from them and see, you know, what it is that you can take away from them, right? There's nothing better than learning through conversations or other people's experiences.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of an accidental, like more like focusing on the conversation and just learning on that entire aspect of it. That kind of turned it into a podcast because I ended up recording a lot of them and then I was posting a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I really learned to love it, I would say. And the connections I was building was really, really fun and really cool. So it's something, you know, I'm still doing to this day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know this because we've sat down and we've talked before, but you started this back in Michigan.
I did.
Okay, so tell me what that podcast centered around there.
Yeah, so that was called What Would You Say to Your Younger Self? Because
Oh.
I was 17, 18. That's a very transitional period for so many people.
Sure.
Because that's really when you start to have to, you're kind of forced to find out what you like about
Yeah.
yourself and what you want to do with your life.
Absolutely.
Not saying that things can't change, of course. I'm just saying that, it's that first step.
Yeah.
So that's what the podcast was about. So I did like maybe 200 or so episodes,
That's a
different
lot.
businesses, just different entrepreneurs out there on their story, like where were they at that age and where are they now and how did they get from that age to this age, and what advice would they give to those younger people out there who are looking for just some guidance on these next few decisions in their lives.
Now, here's an obvious question that's coming. Have you written a book based on that, or are you ever planning on it?
Yeah, where me and my dad have been writing a book.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, the 7 critical career skills. Because we just found that there's just so much to learn that a lot of people don't learn in school. Just basic when it comes to these big decisions in life on how to make those decisions, how to really filter out the fluff in the world and
Right.
focus on the things that will bring you the joy, will bring you the passion, will bring you the success, of course, and how do
Yeah.
you manage that success? So that's what we've been doing with some of the podcast, and then of course with his advice and his wisdom as well.
Yeah. Now, Manesh, who's your dad, and Baxi. See, I talked to him last time, and that's like a reoccurring theme on the show. Is trying to pronounce people's names. And I got it though, right? Baxi. Did I get it right? Yes.
You're close enough.
What? No, I practiced this, guys. So anyway, when I was talking to Manesh, though, he was talking about the amount of books he's written. So to take on another book, I feel like it's kind of easy for him at this point.
Yes.
He just has so much
Yeah.
experience. How many books is he up to?
He's done 12 published.
12.
Yeah, published.
Yeah.
But it's just like you've done so many podcast interviews, right? It's a breeze for you
Yeah.
to get on. You don't even have to like think. You don't have to go slip into any, like it just comes to you so naturally. That's just kind of how it is for him.
I think it depends on who's on, though. Like us, we are both doing podcasts, right?
Right.
And so to kind of feed off the energy, but it really depends on how nervous the other person is and how
That's
much
fair.
they're gonna. But like I was a detective for a little while,
Right.
And so one of the things that I like to joke about on here, or like just in talking to people, is
Yeah.
I used to make people talk, and now I still make people talk.
Right.
See,
In a different
see what I did
context.
there?
I did see. Or I heard.
Yeah, yes,
I heard
yes,
what
yes.
you said.
You
I
heard,
heard it.
you are following what I'm laying down.
Yes.
You
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yes. So, podcasting started in Michigan, moved here, and you have a whole nother podcast here. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so when we moved to Flagler, we loved how tight knit it was. But obviously, when it's something so tight knit and so many people know each other, there's that kind of trust that they have with each other innately. That when a new person comes in, it's kind of hard to just randomly give out your trust, right?
Sure.
So I was finding that it was kind of hard for me. Like I didn't really know how to talk to a lot of people. I guess it sounds a little silly, but I was just like, almost like so nervous. Like I felt like such an outsider. I didn't know how to like get
Yeah.
in, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Why don't, instead of trying to make them talk about anything else, why don't I just focus it on Flagler? I make it as community based as I can. And we had actually been given some advice as well from another business coach, and he's like, why don't you just focus that on Flagler? Like just why I love Flagler County. That can be your title. I'm like,
Yeah.
cool. I'll just do that. So then it wasn't perfect in the beginning, of course. It took a little bit to kind of get it up the ground and running, but most of the time when I told someone like, oh yeah, the podcast is called Why I Love Flagler County, you could see their eyes like light up, like they were excited to talk about this.
Sure.
Because they love their business, number one, and then they love Flagler, number two, and they love having their business in Flagler, number three. So
Absolutely.
it was an amazing and easy topic to really just learn so much about Flagler. Like I learned so much history from it. I've learned newer stuff that's happened, old stuff that's happened,
Yeah.
different events that annually happen. Just keeping up to date with the community has been really, really special.
Yeah, and also just highlighting businesses. It's almost like you're starting off a relationship giving.
Right, exactly.
And that's fantastic. Just because there's unless they're shy, camera shy, there's so many businesses that will just welcome you in. Like, yeah, sure, I'll be on your podcast, because that's going to give them more exposure.
Right.
And it's almost like you're bringing them a gift right away. And so it just breaks down those walls.
Definitely.
And have you seen that has been instrumental in kind of you having more traction just in general? The fact that you're coming to these different businesses, giving them something free, highlighting? Yeah. Has that helped kind of accelerate what you're doing with your business?
Yeah, definitely. It's been really, really great. Because obviously, like, I want to say 8-9 months ago, no one knew us at all, and us as in my whole family. Like, no one knew any of us, right? Like, maybe they might have seen us at like one networking event once. Sure. But now I have, I know a lot of people, and also, like, vice versa, is like a lot of people just kind of know me, which is really cool and really sweet. So it's been really great and really instrumental in just getting to know the community and really just taking my time, going person by person and building that relationship, instead of doing some like mass kind of, not that I didn't do large numbers, but it was very personable, and I was able to connect with everyone.
Sure. Now, one thing that I have to ask, now that people know who you are and you're well known in the community, do you ever get stopped while you're out and people are like, hey, you're Macy? Has that ever happened?
Yes.
Yeah. And how does that make you feel?
Usually the first thing, because people do come up to me, and have come up to me and like just kind of like been like, oh, hey Macy, it's so nice to see you. The first thing that I feel is guilt, because I'm like, I don't know who you are. I'm like, oh my god, I forgot this person's name. Yeah. And it's happened multiple times where like they also don't tell me that we've never talked before, so I just like go on for like 3 minutes where like they don't want to tell me that they only know me from Facebook or like through other stuff. Yeah. So I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. Like, how do I find out this person's name? And I'm like, I've like a few times I've been like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, where have we met before? And then this girl once was like, oh, we've never met. And I'm like, oh, that would explain it. I'm like, oh, okay, well then it's so nice to meet you. Like, let's just like, talk. Like, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't throw me off or anything. Sure. I feel so guilty if we've met before and like I don't remember your name. And I feel like, oh my god, because I'm pretty good, I'd like to think, with names or faces or something about you that I can identify with. So for the most part, like at least some part of my memory will be jogged up, even if it's not like the most accurate details of details. It's like at least there's something, but when there's nothing there, I feel so guilty. But it's really sweet that people come up and they talk to me.
I don't feel that at all.
Oh, you don't feel guilty?
No, but I feel like I'm more of a savage.
Okay.
I don't mean to be.
Right.
But look, I've had a couple people come up to me and say, hey, you interviewed that person. I'm like, yes. And then, see, I'll probably recognize a face, though, but I won't know their name. Okay. And so I'll kind of already know that I hadn't met them in real life.
Sure.
But I am a little bit of a savage. I'm just like, yeah, cool. Hey, what's your name? Like, I won't feel the guilt necessarily.
Yeah. I only feel like that's because I'm thinking that I did something wrong already. Oh, see. That's where it's coming from.
So you have a guilty conscience, and I don't.
And it, like, there's some differences between us and that. Yeah. So I think that's probably why.
Yeah, that's because you're a sweet person, and it just 12 years in law enforcement. I'm just corrupted, and I'm sorry, people. Look, I need you to forgive me. I'm sorry. But tell me a little bit about how podcasting, and now you're helping other people with their podcast. I do. Tell us a little bit about that and how you can help them.
Yeah, so I found a lot of success with just the numbers I was doing with the podcast and the relationships I was building. I was able to meet people that I would have never dreamed of meeting, and then working with them as well, because they were able to see like my value straight up front, right? Like, it wasn't beating around the bush of, not to say that, coffee connections, one-to-ones, just getting a couple, like, not to say like none of these things work. You should always do them with people you want to build relationships with. Sure. But having them on my podcast immediately as kind of like our first part of our first few connections, they immediately see the kind of person I am. Yeah. And so I was kind of, when I was talking to some other people about it too, they were starting to see the value in their own business, whether, it could be something completely different from what I do, but they were able to see the value of having, like a podcast, some type of social media presence, as well as the relationships they can build through that podcast.
Absolutely.
So that's what I've been helping people with is, it's an easier way to attract clients. It's
Sure.
a way easier way to set the appointment with someone you've been wanting to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot less intimidating of a call, in my opinion, my personal opinion.
Yeah.
As well as just building stronger referral relationships. I don't think people realize that having like this genuine social proof of a video you guys did together, it shows instead of just being like, you don't have to take my word for it that I know, Brad Ward. Here's literally a video we did together where we filmed each other.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and you can tell that I care a lot about Brad's business, which means I'll care about your business.
Yeah.
And again, like, this isn't like meant to be like, I hope no one sees this as like mind games or mental hoops or anything. It's just like proof. It's just like proof of something you're already doing, proof of your already good character, your already good business. And then so it's a great way to improve lead generation, referral relationships, and your social media presence.
No, absolutely. And there's a couple things you said there as far as proof. One of the things I live by, and this might be far-fetched or out there, or extreme, is if you didn't document it for social media, it didn't happen. Darn it. It didn't. So, and that's what I tell people when I'm talking to them about content and such like that. Look, if you're doing a one-to-one with somebody, if you're meeting with somebody, take a picture. Because this is free advice, that's a soft endorsement. And a lot of people don't do that or think to do that. I might feel weird, but the truth is, if you're in a photo with somebody, they think enough of you to be in that photo, and now their audience is seeing you with that person in that photo, and non-verbally,
right,
that person's endorsing you.
There's also a lot of ways around it too. I think it shows, like it goes back to that endorsement, but the reason you want an endorsement like that is, number one, it shows that you want to promote the other person.
Yeah,
so they don't think like, oh, this conversation brought me nothing. It already shows like, hey, Thaddeus wants to promote me on his social media page. He's already willing to do that after one conversation. Other people see that and go, wait, I've heard of Thaddeus, but you know what? I have a really good friendship with Macy. So because of that, I want to look more into Thaddeus. So it goes in a win-win scenario.
Yeah, it's mutually beneficial.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. There was another thing you were saying. It wasn't what we were just talking about, but you were... And I'm getting old, so it might have slipped my mind exactly what it was. But there's the soft endorsement part. But you're talking about also, I got it. Darn it, I'm getting old. I'm 37. I'm going to be 38 this month.
Happy birthday.
Well, thank you. I got it back.
Okay.
I got it back. So you were talking about how it's a nice way for a small business to approach another business.
Correct.
And be like, hey, would you like to be on my podcast? And that just, I feel like that can disarm that other person that you're reaching out to.
Yeah.
That's your experience too?
Definitely. Because obviously, so the reason that other businesses don't take meetings with other businesses is because they're just, we live in such a world where it's easy to access other people. So it's easy to just try to take from people.
Absolutely.
Or give stuff that is not of value of other businesses, right? So obviously that's why you have like the gatekeeper being like, hey, I'm not looking to waste my time with some other business who just wants, our wants our book of business or wants to take money from us or anything and not really give the value that they should.
Right.
And I think this is just an easy way to be like, hey, I don't want anything from you. I want to promote your business for free, 15 minutes, and I want to share and I want to learn about your business and see how we can best help each other and refer each other.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you have pure intentions, they'll see through your pure intentions anyways.
Yeah.
And if you have bad intentions, they'll see through it. So it's not like it's not a tool to be used to like manipulate people, because obviously people are gonna judge based off what they want to judge.
Sure.
But it's just an easier tool because like so many businesses would have never talked to me because, you don't want to waste your time. Your time is precious. Your time is worth money. Your time is worth, hours in your business and stuff. You don't want to waste on a random, 30-minute hour conversation with someone who you don't even know what they do. You don't even know if they can do anything for you, but now you're like, you've wasted an hour of your day that could be worth, closing a sale or meeting with a real potential client.
Right.
So 15 minutes over Zoom podcast was just so easy for me, especially once I had a few people under my belt, a few good known people. Then people are like, oh, okay, I know that lady. Like, I'll definitely get on your podcast then because I see the value of promoting myself.
Right.
So yeah, that's what It's a really easy way, in my opinion, to just talk to someone.
Mm-hmm.
They don't feel like, oh my gosh, Thaddeus just wants my money. I should just run in the other direction. Now it's like,
Well,
oh, he wants
I
to
do
give.
want some money, but
It's not all you want.
that's not all I want,
Exactly.
people.
That's what it is.
I feel like money.
Multifaceted.
Yeah, it's even from the Bible. It's like the servant is worthy of whatever. It was talking more in a religious context, but I feel like money, it should be based off of impact, so to speak.
Can you tell me more?
Yeah. So the amount of impact, the amount of value you bring should be kind of in alignment with
definitely.
the amount of money. And I don't think,
Sure.
I think when it's just like completely out of alignment,
Exactly.
I think that's when people were getting taken advantage of. That's when you get the slimy individual.
For sure.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you are the daughter of Manesh.
I am.
You are indeed. And for the people out there who may not know Manesh, well, first, look him up. He is very big in the community of just helping businesses to thrive, but also that accountability, which is huge. There's a lot of people with small businesses that don't have that success because they don't have anyone to ask them, why didn't you make those calls today?
Right.
So tell me about growing up in the Manesh household.
Well, there's a lot. Like, is there anything specific you want to learn about?
Yeah. So did the day start at like 5 or 3?
Oh my gosh, he wished. I was a very late riser as a child, and a genuine answer. I don't know what happened, but I was literally the worst at getting up every morning until I turned like 17 and a half.
17 and a half.
Like, that's a very odd number,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I was already 17 at that time, but it wasn't until, I was like closer, like, I remember, and then something was wrong with me, and now I have to get up at 7. It's very messed up.
Yeah.
In all honesty, like, growing up around him, it's very much, I think a lot of people have different assumptions how it was, but he was a very supportive father in so many senses.
Yeah.
And he was always telling me stuff that he was like, you're not going to see the value in this for a very long time, but eventually you will. And he was right. I didn't really know what was going on a lot. A very common thing we used to do when I was very little, like probably 5, 6, 7, is we would just walk around our neighborhood back up in Michigan when we could. Obviously, it was cold a lot of the time. But I just remember like always having these late night conversations. Late night, and for me at bedtime, 5 o'clock. You know what I mean? Like I was 5, so that was late night for me. In case anyone was curious.
Yeah.
But like he would just tell me all these different things. A lot of things he really drove home for me was like building relationships.
Yeah.
He would always tell me, you need to know this about this. Like, he's like, you always have to remember when you're in a conversation with someone, they don't care about you. He's like, you have to remember. So, like, not saying you can't talk about yourself.
Yeah.
But when you only talk about yourself, people are not going to be interested.
People love to talk about themselves.
They do.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have a podcast. We both have podcasts where that's all we do is talk about other people. So we know better than anyone.
Yeah.
And so he'd always teach me different things. He'd teach me, different conversation skills, how to identify different people in different conversations, stuff like that. So all of these things, like, that's just like the starting point of what we used to talk about.
Yeah.
And so growing up, I would slowly start to see the effect of it in my real life. And obviously it's not until, I'm an adult and I'm actually going out there and I'm doing it and I'm having these very, very intentional conversations with these podcasting. Like, I can't just get on this podcast and just talk willy-nilly. Like, there has to be a point to the conversation.
Yeah.
I have to learn something. They have to feel good about telling me this something.
Yeah.
So it was something that I was like, oh my gosh, wait, I'm so glad you told me this when I was 7 and I'm barely sentient. Like, now I have a effect and I can apply it in my life.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that we did as a kid. So he's been my lifelong business coach.
Now, since you said you woke up late, I have to know what time. No, you're shaking your head. What time is late? I have to know.
Oh, I don't know if I was like super, super late in getting up, but it was just like, it was very hard for me to get up. So like 8, 9 o'clock, 8, 9, 10.
It's not so bad.
It's not like terrible, but it was like it was really painful to get up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's probably what like struck home the most.
Did you stay up late?
No, really. Like when I got older, I did, but like when I was a kid, I just was bad at waking up, and I don't really know why. Like, it wasn't even because I was staying up late. I don't know.
See, I feel like for me, I can be an early riser or a night owl, and sometimes I'm both,
I'm usually both.
which is terrible because you have to sleep sometime.
Eventually, yeah.
What do you mean eventually? I feel like as an entrepreneur, though, here's the thing, and you probably agree with me. There's always something to do,
Sure.
and there's this balance, and I haven't found it yet.
Yeah, there's always something to do. And even if it's not something sometimes in your business, sometimes there's something else you realize you have to do in life. And you're like, oh, wait, I want to do this, but I don't have time to do this. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to balance and juggle in life.
Now, does your father, does he give you any instruction on balance as far as like that sort of accountability? Like, hey, yeah, work your business, but take time out for no?
Not like, because I don't know. I mean, yes and no. Like, it's not as strong because I don't think, I'm usually pretty good about putting, like, my favorite hobby in the entire world is baking. I'm sure if anyone has ever looked me up on social media, they can tell that. So usually, like, if there's a project I want to do, I'll go do it.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's ever really had an issue with being like, just stop.
Stop
But
baking.
we do.
He'll never say stop baking.
He won't say stop baking, except sometimes he does, where he's like, you can't make this because I'm gonna eat it all, so you just either have to make it and get it out of the house immediately or something. He's like, because you can't have it in the household.
Yeah.
True story.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, but as far as balance, you're self-balanced, this sounds like. You do it yourself. You don't need as much accountability, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I would say like there's like accountability aspect, and mostly just like, I mean, every morning me and my dad will get together and we'll plan out what our day and what our goals are for the day and what that looks like. And then we usually meet up towards the end of the day as well to kind of recap what's going on and if there's anything else, like any other loose ends we need to tie up. That's
fantastic. And now for you, and you've been around Manesh's program of accountability, is it similar to that?
His accountability programs? No. No, not what him and I do. Because it's not just like my business, it's also, I do a lot of stuff with him as well.
Sure.
So sometimes we just need to reconnect a bunch of different times to go over some stuff that he needs to get done.
Yeah.
But his accountability, I've been on all of his accountability calls pretty much since he started them.
Okay.
Back in March, I think, is when we started this program.
Sure.
Or maybe even February. I don't even remember now. I think it was February now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, so, yeah, it's really great to get on every morning at 10 a.m. to have that is what we do, 10 a.m., and we meet for about 15 to 30 minutes. Depends on if there's something there's specific that everyone wants to talk about and get over with. But it's great to see other people and really connect with everyone, and it's really great also, it's a great place to share your wins. And I think that really motivates everyone at the end of the day to be like, oh, what's something in the morning that I can report to the group, and we can all celebrate together.
That's cool.
And it's always been really great to have a community like that, to be like, hey, this is someone I really need to meet this week, or hey, like, this is something I really need to make sure I get done. Is there any way you guys can help me with, like, I need to do this or that. So it's a really great way to not just meet with my dad, but also meet with so many other like-minded business owners who are really motivated about their business.
So that's like a everyday network almost.
It is.
That's awesome. And one of the things, this is almost like not almost, this is straight from the Bible, is a biblical principle. Iron sharpens iron.
Right.
And is that kind of one of the principles behind the accountability group?
For sure, yeah. We all need places. We all want places to grow with. And that's, why there are different networking groups for different reasons. Like BNI is a very specific reason versus something else that you might be in that's only once a month, versus BNI is every week. So there's so many different groups that meet different needs. So this is a great group if you're really dedicated and you're motivated to having and pushing your business off the ground or pushing it to the next level, and you want to be around people who are also doing that.
Yeah. Which is super important, because one of the things I was just thinking about as you were talking is so many businesses fail within the first couple of years.
Right.
I think a lot of that has to do with not being surrounded by the correct people and the correct voices to know which way to go. Because a business isn't that hard necessarily to start.
Sure.
But it's to know the proper direction to go.
Exactly. And not having a plan is a huge mistake that a lot of people make. They sometimes follow in vague footsteps, or they follow some stuff that they've seen before. But every business can be different, and everyone's goals can be different. So it's really important to have a coach who puts that plan with you and goes, what is it that you really need to do? Here's how I know you can get there. And then being able to have a group that you're with that's showing like, hey, I am sticking with the plan. Or sometimes, the plan's not working for whatever reason. Maybe there's some other factors that people didn't consider. So meeting back up with your business coach and being like, hey, this isn't working right now. What can we do to fix this? How can we put the real plan back in place? What do we have to pivot? What do we have to change? And then other people being there and kind of voicing with you, being like, hey, I read this email that you sent out the other day. Here's why it worked. Here's why it might not work. Here's what you can improve. So if you hear from other trusted consumers of, hey, this is something we can all work on together.
Yeah. Now, you are part of a family of entrepreneurs, and it's a powerhouse, essentially. The team there helping each other. And your father with his accountability and coaching and stuff like that. Your mom, she does the
Debt-free Flagler.
Exactly.
Yep.
Debt-free Flagler, with helping people to get out of debt, and you're helping people launch their own podcast shows. So specifically for you, how can people reach out to contact you so that they can get connected to other people through a podcast?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thankfully, my dad has made my life very easy with my name, so I'm pretty much the only one when you search up Macy Baxi. I'm the only one that shows up. Macy, B as in boy, Axi is my full name. LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, it's all under that.
Yeah.
That's the best and easiest way to find me. And then all my information, all my updated information will always be there. So my email will always be there. I sometimes have my phone number published, which is kind of only sometimes a bad idea. But yeah, reach out at any given time. Any of those platforms I usually check on a daily basis. So I'd love to get back to you and connect and see how I can help you with your business.
Yeah, and now Manesh, he has a certain amount of space that he's opened up, so that other people can get his accountability services so that they can propel their business forward. Do you want to speak on how they can get in contact with your father?
Yeah, so same thing, as his name is also pretty easy to find, Macy Baxi. Go out and reach out. Every month we host an event at the Southern Rec Center. Usually it is the fourth Friday of every month, but some dates are subject to change, as in this month there's October.
Sure.
We have the elections coming up in October, late October technically. So we're moving it up a week. So it's October 18th this month. And I think next month is also moved up a week. I don't know what day that is because of Thanksgiving, obviously. So just reach out. We're always posting about the Lunch and Learn. The Lunch and Learn is the best event for you to come to if you're not really sure what this program is, if you're not sure what accountability means to you and your business. We always, it's a great, just an hour and a half if you come early for networking. It's just an hour packed full of great speakers. I've spoken at a decent amount of the events, and it's been really fun and really great community to connect with. Get some good lunch, get some great information, and learn about coaching and business, because this month we're talking all about setting goals and setting 2025 up to be the best year ever. So I'm excited. There's a lot of great stuff happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been to a couple of the Lunch and Learns. I always enjoy them. And just getting to know people, like I'll say specifically like Jennifer Robertson.
Right.
My first time meeting her was at a Lunch and Learn, and she happened to be sitting by herself at a table, and I just walked up. Hey, I'm Thaddeus. You look like you're alone and you are buried in a phone. So I was like, how are you? But from there, I've had her on my podcast. Amazing. And so on and so forth. And it's just cool to have these opportunities where you can meet people. So guys out there, I want you to reach out to Manesh. So Macy is specifically helping people launch their own podcast, and that's a great way to break down walls between you and other people that you want to, have contact with. Like specifically a mortgage professional. I'm going to give an example. You need a bunch of realtors to bring you deals. What's a better way than to have a podcast where you can have those people on and highlight them, and now in return, you reap what you sow, and now in return, maybe they'll think about you when it's time for them to sell a house and that sort of thing. So great way to break down walls and to also gift to people a highlight. So reach out to Macy for those things. Make sure that you follow her on social media and see her journey. And also reach out to Manesh. Manesh has an amazing accountability program, and he has space now available to take on a couple more people. And so make sure you reach out to him to get your business going, to make sure that it is on the right path and going the right direction. And again, this has been Thaddeus and Macy on the Be Nice Individuals podcast, just hosted here at the Flagler Voice Podcast Studio. And I say it all the time, there's space here for you. So if you're a business that wants to shout out your ideas, we got space for you. If you're an individual that wants to talk about your ideas, we have space for you, as long as they're not too weird. But otherwise, we'll have to take the cross off the wall, and we have a cross just for that purpose. But also political candidates. Look, political candidates, I have call-in features here. What does that mean? That means you, if you so choose, you can sit on the hot seat and you can let people call in. You can answer questions completely transparent. It'd be fantastic. I'd be over here laughing. But anyway, so guys, again, this has been Thaddeus on the Be Nice Individuals podcast. We'll see you next time.